Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video we have another news update video. In today's video we're looking at some signings and some small pieces of news from our past couple of days. And we've got some trade updates involving the Ducks and the Maple Leafs. We'll touch on all this coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. If this is your first time joining us, don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe, comment. We're trying to hit 750 subscribers in the very near future. I will never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. And once again, I'd love to get your thoughts in the comment section below. On top of that, we also have some more videos coming in the very near future, so stay up to date with the channel if you want more hockey content. But in today's video, we do have another news update video. So we would usually start off these videos by talking about some signings from our past couple of days, but there's not been any NHL level signings, so nothing there to talk about. So we're going to start over here today with the overseas signings. There have been a couple more players who have signed overseas and with some other different teams. So Mike Hardman, former prospect of I think the Devils and the Blackhawks, has signed in the SHL. Philippe Myers, former top prospect of the Islanders, has signed in the KHL. Kevin Hayes, former Penguin, Flyer, Blue Jet player, has signed over in the KHL as well. And Josh Bloom, former Canucks and Sabres prospect, is signed in AHL Boston. So very interesting to know. There's some very interesting signings. Hardman, over the past couple of years, was an AHL level player. Obviously, he wasn't able to get very much contract offers from teams in North America, so he heads over to the SHL, and I think he should be able to get some more playing time over there. Maggio and Hayes both go to the KHL. Maggio was, in our last video, we talked about reportedly going to the KHL. Now he's officially signed with one of the KHL teams. So very good stuff there. Maggio at one point was a top prospect for the Islanders organization. The last couple of years really fell off a little bit, so he's going to go overseas. We'll see how he does in the KHL. Kevin Hayes, over the past couple of years, has definitely declined. Like a couple of years ago, he was still a really solid third line center in like Philadelphia and St. Louis. The past couple of years haven't been overly good to Kevin Hayes. His contract came to an end this past year in Pittsburgh. No one brought him back. It didn't look like he was getting any NHL opportunities, so he goes over to the KHL, and he's going to go and play overseas in Russia for now. So very interesting to know there. And then Josh Bloom was a pretty decent prospect for both the Sabres and the Canucks. However, the Canucks, I don't think, qualified in this past offseason. He became a UFA. No NHL team was offering him a contract. Probably not very many AHL teams were either, but he does sign with the Providence Bruins, the AHL affiliates for Boston. This is an AHL only deal, so it's not like he has ties to Boston until he signs a two-way contract. So it's just for the AHL, but at least Bloom will be staying on North American soil and playing at the AHL level. Very interesting to note there. According to some recent reports as well, the Capitals have signed their first player to professional tryouts. Remember, we're going to probably hear some more updates about players being signed to professional tryouts as we get closer and closer to training camp, which starts in mid-September. And the Capitals have signed Cal Petersen to an NHL tryout contract. So once again, these are just for training camp to just let the team evaluate the player and see if they really want to try and make something work. Also, the player is able to get into some like preseason action, some training, and see if maybe he can earn a contract. If not with that current team he signs a PTO with, then with another team. So very interesting to note there. But the Caps have signed Cal Petersen. They have Thompson, they have Lindgren, and they have really solid AHL goaltender Stevenson on their contract. So if Cal Petersen was to be signed, he'd probably be like the fourth stringer in the Caps organization, but he's at least going to get an opportunity to go to training camp with the Washington Capitals and potentially wind up earning himself a contract. So keep your eye on that situation as we inch toward training camp, as the Capitals have signed Cal Petersen, and I do believe we're going to see some more PTOs be signed in the coming days. And on top of that, according to Bruce Garrioch, the Senators are close to naming their new captain. Now, once again, over the past number of seasons, the captain had been Brady Tkachuk with the Ottawa Senators. However, Tkachuk was traded this past offseason to the Florida Panthers, so that has left the Ottawa Senators captainless, one of the 10 teams in the NHL who do not currently have a captain. And it seems like they are getting close to naming a captain. Garrioch mentions that Stützle, Sanderson, and Chabot are the three frontrunners right now to be named the captain of the Ottawa Senators. Now, Stützle and Sanderson, a lot of people have been talking about, but Garrioch actually says that he thinks the most likely candidate for the captain position would be Thomas Chabot. Chabot's been there for a long period of time. He's wound up being a really solid veteran leader on that Ottawa Senators group, and apparently, according to Garrioch, was like a solid second voice to Brady Tkachuk when Tkachuk was the captain the past couple of years. So I know a lot of people want Stützle or Sanderson because they're easily the two best players on the Senators to be the captain, but do not be surprised if maybe Chabot winds up being the Ottawa Senators captain. So very interesting to note there, but keep your eye on the Ottawa Senators as they could name a captain in the coming days. So very interesting to note there. And some other recent updates have said that the Minnesota Wild are planning to sign John Hynes to an extension. Hynes is currently the head coach of the Minnesota Wild, has been for the past, I think, 2.5 years. Apparently he's going into the final year of his contract, but Hynes, who is coming off helping the Minnesota Wild win their first playoff series in, I think, 14 plus years, is looking like he's going to be extended. So I'm not sure what the contract will look like, not sure how much term he's probably going to get, but at least it does sound like Hynes will be extended at some point between now and the beginning of training camp. So very interesting to note there, but even though Hynes is going into the final year of his deal to be the Minnesota Wild's head coach, expect him to sign an extension and stay in Minnesota. So very interesting to note there. And last year, going over to a couple of trade updates. So going over to a couple of trade updates, we got a couple of things here to talk about. The first one was just a report I saw recently, remember, not from any credible insider, but I did see an article recently that did mention that the Maple Leafs apparently have been linked recently to Rangers forward Taylor Raddysh. Now, the reason for this connection is because Taylor Raddish's brother Darren Raddysh was just acquired this past offseason by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Once again, the Raddishes grew up as fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs, so once again, Darren was really excited to go to Toronto because he grew up a Leafs fan, and he was just acquired by the Leafs, and it seems like the Leafs might have some interest in bringing in Taylor Raddysh too. Raddysh is on 1 year left on his contract with the New York Rangers with a $1.5 million AAV. Not sure if it's a deal that could happen before the start of training camp or before the start of the season, but the Rangers are a rebuilding team. I personally do not expect the Rangers to be overly good this year. Probably be between like the 80 and 90 point plateau again this year. Maybe be close, but not right there to a playoff spot. So I could see them be maybe small sellers and move off a couple of pending UFAs at the trade deadline this upcoming season. And with Raddysh being a pending UFA, if he doesn't get extended at the trade deadline, he could be a very interesting fit for the Leafs. The Leafs, we know, just recently reworked their bottom six and added a couple of decent players, but I could see them maybe at the trade deadline have some serious interest. And once again, having the Raddysh brothers play on the same team will be a sight to see. So very interesting to note there. We'll have to wait and see if that winds up happening, but it does seem that the Maple Leafs do have some interest in Taylor Raddysh, and whether it's before training camp or before the start of the season, or maybe closer to the trade deadline, don't be surprised if the Maple Leafs do try and pry Taylor Raddysh out of the Rangers to reunite the Raddysh brothers. So very interesting to note there. Next, going over to the Anaheim Ducks. I saw another recent article linking the Anaheim Ducks and the Toronto Maple Leafs to a potential trade. Now, we've talked about how the Anaheim Ducks are trying to move out some players to free up some cap space. We'll talk about that in a minute too, as that's another interesting update I have with the Anaheim Ducks. But it sounds like the Ducks could target the Toronto Maple Leafs to try and get some defensive help. Now, we know the Anaheim Ducks have a very young blue line after losing Trouba, Carlson, and Gudas this past offseason. So they have a decent defense, but it's nowhere near one of the best in the Pacific Division, and it's got a lot of younger bodies. So they could probably benefit from adding 1 to 2 more defenders, especially veterans. And the problem for the Ducks is they have no cap space. They only have $9 million. They still need to sign Gauthier, who wants between $13 and $15 million. So they really need to try and find some cheap way to add some defensemen and enter the Toronto Maple Leafs. According to a recent article I saw, the Leafs have guys like Stetcher and Danford and Andrea competing for NHL minutes at the defensive spot this year, which has really boxed out Philippe Myers. Even if a couple of those other guys don't make the roster, you're looking at Myers probably being like 9th, 10th on the Maple Leafs depth charts. So he's probably not going to get very much playing time unless there's a slew of injuries for the Leafs on the blue line. So he's a guy who this article mentions the Ducks could definitely go after. He's only making $1 million. He's shown flashes in the past of being a decent third pair defenseman, sort of a rough and tumble, hard to play against defenseman. Not going to put you up a whole bunch of points, but it's actually pretty sound defensively. Probably could be a really good 6-7 defenseman for the Anaheim Ducks, and like I said, is not too expensive to acquire. And it will probably only cost like a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick to pry him out of Toronto. So that makes a ton of sense. Like, that could be a very good buy low, cheap option for the Anaheim Ducks to add some more veteran experience for this upcoming season, given the fact that they have quite a young blue line in Anaheim right now. So we'll have to wait and see on that. No guarantees at any means that these two teams do wind up hooking up on a Philippe Myers deal, but with the Leafs depth on the blue line, it could wind up working out for the Anaheim Ducks so they could try and move like a late draft pick to Toronto. They'll try and get Myers and have him be like their 6-7 defenseman on their roster. So that could be a very interesting situation we're going to have to watch out for. And lastly, here going over to the Anaheim Ducks. Once again, I saw another recent report, not from any credible insider or anything, but just a recent report out there saying that the Anaheim Ducks could be getting closer to trading Chris Kreider or Alex Killorn. So once again, I've seen a lot of these reports over the past little while. It seems like at some point between now and the start of training camp, or potentially even the start of the season, Anaheim will move at least one, if not both of these players. Once again, teams who need some more top/middle six help, I think should be all over Chris Kreider. If they have a little bit of cap space and can fit in his $6 million cap hit, that would be a very good add for a couple of different teams. He's still a guy who I think can put up between 15 and 20 goals, around 40 to 50 points, and be a very productive like second, third line forward, even playing with a couple of the younger players on a new team. Meanwhile, Alex Killorn's more of a third line guy at this point in time, not going to put you up as many points, but he can still put up like 10 to 15 goals, like 30 to 40 points, and I could still see Killorn be a very interesting add for some teams who need some more depth help on like the third line. So once again, no guarantees that these two guys are going to get moved. For teams like Edmonton and Montreal be linked to Chris Kreider. Will the Anaheim Ducks move one of these guys to like Calgary or Vancouver? Could Pittsburgh have some interest? Columbus? There are a couple of teams out there who could probably fit those two's cap hit, or their cap hit, and really strengthen their top nine. So we'll have to wait and see on that, but keep an eye on the Anaheim Ducks over the next couple of weeks, as it definitely seems that they're going to move one of Kreider or Killorn to try and sign Gauthier, and it could happen in the very near future. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But that's all I'm going to talk about for today. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. Do you guys think that we are going to see some Ducks trades with Killorn or Kreider in the very near future? Could the Ducks target Philippe Myers for some added defensive help? And do the Leafs try and reunite the Raddysh brothers and try and acquire Taylor Raddysh from New York? I'll let you guys' thoughts on all of that, plus all the signings and news updates from our past couple of days. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. If this is your first time joining us, remember to leave a like on the video, subscribe, comment. I'll never be able to do this with all of you guys, trying to hit 750 subscribers, and I'd love to get your thoughts in the comment section below. Also do a blog, talk about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. I'll link that down in the description below. I'll also leave a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page in the description below. Just a site that I made that allows you guys to help support the channel. So if you guys really like what I do here and want to help support the channel, go over to my Buy Me a Coffee page and make a donation. And I count to see you guys all for the next video. God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all in the next one.